Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a moment, really, to acknowledge the passing of someone truly significant in the world of thrillers, Frederick Forsyth. He died recently, June 9th, 2025, at 86.
Yeah, a real titan of the genre.
Absolutely. And he wasn't just, a writer putting words on a page. He had this incredible ability to take these really complex, sometimes dry details about spying and global politics.
And turn them into something absolutely gripping. Pulse-pounding stuff that kept you totally hooked.
Exactly. So what we want to do today is sort of journey into his life. It was remarkable, often quite surprising, actually.
Definitely surprising.
His legacy is, well, it's as complex as one of his own plots, isn't it? A mix of just sheer brilliance, some undeniable controversy, too, and this real talent for stirring things up.
And we'll see how he didn't just write thrillers. You could argue he practically invented the modern geopolitical thriller. He used his own life, his incredible experiences, to shape the fiction.
That's the key, I think, that authenticity. We'll explore why his stories felt so real and, some of the surprising things that took him from being this young daredevil almost to a literary legend. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it. You'll see how that unconventional path was just fundamental to the realism he became known for.
And it really was unconventional. So Frederick McCarthy Forsyth, born August 25, 1938, Ashford, Kent. Only child. His father was a furrier?
Right, and his escape wasn't, playing outside so much as diving into books. John Buchan, H. Rider Haggard, adventure stories.
But then it gets interesting, doesn't it? It wasn't just books.
No, far from it. How do you go from reading adventures to living them? Well, as a teenager, he got obsessed with bullfighting.
Bullfighting. I mean, can you imagine, sparked by Hemingway's death in the afternoon?
And it wasn't just reading about it. It's 17. He goes off to Spain to practice with a cape.
That's just, wow. Talk about diving in headfirst. What a start.
And that audacity, that willingness to experience intense things directly, that really became his pattern, didn't it? After Spain, he joins the Royal Air Force.
Lied about his age to get in, apparently.
Yep. Became one of the youngest pilots, just 19, flying de Havilland Vampire jets between 56 and 58.
So you've got this immersion in precision, high-stakes operations. You can see how that might be useful later.
Absolutely. Those lessons stick. Then he moves from the cockpit to the newsroom.
Right. National service done. Joins Reuters in 1961, foreign correspondent. And, impressively, he spoke French, German, Spanish, Russian.
Skills he picked up through exchanges, studying in Granada, made him perfect for international reporting.
And by 1962, he's in Paris. A very tense Paris.
Extremely tense. De Gaulle had just decided to grant Algeria independence, and the city was simmering.
And his assignment there was pretty hairy, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was only 24, and he's tasked with shadowing de Gaulle. Not for photo ops, but because the OAS, the Organisation de l'Armée Secrète.
A group of far-right former soldiers.
Exactly. They were actively plotting to kill de Gaulle. Multiple attempts.
And this is where the day of the Jackal starts percolating.
This is the seed. He's right there, rubbing shoulders with de Gaulle's security detail, seeing how it all works, the real-world nuts and bolts. He later said he realized the OAS guys, despite being fanatics, they were amateurs. They'd never succeed unless...
Unless they hired a professional.
Precisely.
Yeah.
A detached, skilled killer. That observation lodged in his mind. Well, it changed everything for him and for the thriller genre.
It's incredible how that direct experience, that journalistic eye for detail, just fused together.
It really was the perfect storm of observation and high-stakes reality.
Okay, so let's jump forward. 1970. Things have changed for Forsyth.
Dramatically. He's back in the UK. He's left the BBC because they wouldn't cover the Biafra conflict in Nigeria.
Something he felt really strongly about, having reported from there.
He did. And now he's jobless, broke, no prospects.
So what does he do? Sits down at a typewriter and decides to write a novel.
And supposedly hammers out The Day of the Jackal in just 35 days.
35 days? It sounds almost unbelievable, that speed.
It does. And look, while that 35-day figure is widely quoted, some people are a bit skeptical, given the sheer detail in the book. But even if it took a bit longer, it was astonishingly fast.
And the book itself, the realism was just off the charts, wasn't it?
Utterly unsettling. The forensic detail, how to get forged papers, how to build a custom sniper rifle, the step-by-step planning, the chase.
It felt so real, people wondered if it was real, like maybe this actually happened.
Exactly. Which is ironic because initially publishers didn't get it.
Right, 4 rejections.
Yes.
Because they thought a story about a failed assassination attempt wouldn't sell.
Crazy looking back. But Hutchinson finally took a chance, published it in the UK in '71.
And bam, global sensation.
Instantaneous. Sold millions, won the Edgar Award from the Mystery Writers of America. Huge.
And its impact lasted. The '73 film with Edward Fox is a classic.
And now there's even a new TV series in 2024 with Eddie Redmayne. It just keeps resonating.
And that authenticity we talked about came from deep research, right?
Oh, obsessive research. He apparently talked to actual passport forgers, armorers, even, the story goes, a real-life hitman. He wanted every detail nailed down.
There's that famous anecdote, isn't there, about the British government?
Yeah, that the government actually tightened up passport security procedures because the book showed how vulnerable they were.
Imagine writing a novel that forces a government to change its security protocols. That's something else.
It really shows the power of that blend of fact and fiction he mastered. The lines just blurred completely.
And he didn't stop there. That success fueled more hits.
Absolutely. Straight after Jackal, you get the Odessa file in '72. That's the one about the German reporter hunting a Nazi war criminal, protected by this secret SS network, Odessa.
Now, Odessa itself, the organization, that was fictionalized, right? Though based on real escape networks.
Exactly. Inspired by reality, which gave it that chilling plausibility. Then, The Dogs of War in '74, drawing directly on his Biafra, reporting mercenaries plotting a coup in Africa.
Both massive bestsellers, both made into films. He was on a roll.
He really was. But he also seemed aware of the power he wielded.
You mean like with the Fourth Protocol?
Precisely. That's the 1984 novel about the Soviets trying to sneak a nuclear bomb into Britain. Very detailed.
And he deliberately left bits out, didn't he?
He did. He said he didn't want to provide a how-to guide for terrorists. A conscious decision about responsible storytelling.
Which is fascinating considering the other big reveal about his life.
Ah, yes. The MI6 connection.
Which came out in his 2015 memoir, The Outsider. He admitted he'd been an informant for MI6, British intelligence, for over 20 years.
Started way back in 1968 when he was covering Biafra. He called himself a gentleman volunteer.
Running errands, slipping envelopes under hotel doors.
Things like that. It wasn't James Bond, maybe, but it was real involvement. And it connects back to his time in East Berlin for Reuters in '63, right in the thick of the Cold War.
So he wasn't just imagining the spy world, he had a foot in it. That's an incredible layer of authenticity.
It certainly explains a lot about the feel of his books, the insights. You have to wonder what else he knew, what he saw.
But life wasn't all best-selling novels and secret assignments. There were financial dramas, too.
Oh, big time. Mid-'70s, he's rolling in it from royalties, film rights, then wham, he loses a fortune.
A bad investment, wasn't it? That fraudster Roger Levitt.
Yeah, cost him over £2 million. Plus, he went through a divorce from his first wife, Carol Cunningham. They had 2 sons together, Stuart and Shane.
So suddenly he needs money again.
Desperately. And what does Forsyth do when he needs cash?
He writes.
He writes, he apparently churned out 5 books in 5 years just to get back on his feet financially.
Incredible pressure, but he delivered. Now, beyond the writing and the extracurricular activities, he was also very public about his politics.
Very public, very outspoken, staunch conservative, big Brexit supporter. He wrote a regular column for the Daily Express right up until 2023.
And he wasn't afraid to wade into controversial topics. Woke culture.
Called it stupid rather than sinful, I think. He defended J.K. Rowling quite fiercely, too. Lots of letters to the Telegraph railing against the EU, political correctness, you name it.
He definitely didn't mince words.
No. And those strong views inevitably colored his novels, didn't they?
You often see the UK, the US, Israel positioned as the good guys.
While the antagonists are frequently Soviets, Arab groups, African dictators, it reflected a certain worldview.
Critics definitely picked up on that. People like Rakir Joshi wrote about him representing a sort of typical conservative Anglo-Saxon Cold War perspective, post-colonial biases sometimes.
Yeah, and you see specific examples. The Afghan from 2006 praised for the research, as always, but criticized for stereotyping Muslims.
Or the Dogs of War being accused of glamorizing mercenaries, even though he insisted it was rooted in his Biafra experiences.
It's definitely part of the conversation around his legacy. You have to acknowledge those criticisms, the lens through which he wrote.
Sure, but even with those criticisms, his skill at building suspense, at weaving those research details into a gripping story, that was undeniable.
Absolutely undeniable. He was a master craftsman of the thriller, whatever your politics. The plots felt so plausible, it was scary.
Okay, so we've got the writer, the adventurer, the informant, the political commentator. What about the man behind it all? Was there a softer side?
There definitely was. though perhaps less public. He married Sandy Malloy in 1994. She'd been an assistant to Elizabeth Taylor.
Right, and they lived fairly quietly, didn't they? Buckinghamshire Manor, Jack Russell Terriers.
A more settled life. But what really stands out is his devotion to Sandy later on, as her health failed.
He became her caregiver.
A very dedicated one. He visited her every day in her care home until she passed away in 2024. He actually spoke quite openly about how painful it was watching her decline. It showed a real vulnerability that contrasted with that sort of tough guy image.
That adds a really human dimension, doesn't it? He officially retired from thrillers in 2018 with The Fox.
But he did tease us, didn't he? Hinting there was one last story he was itching to tell. Ah, the unwritten story. We'll never know now. Sadly not. His own final chapter closed at home in Jordan's Buckinghamshire. Passed away after a short illness, family around him.
And the tributes came pouring in. His agent called him one of the world's greatest thriller writers. Lee Child said The Day of the Jackal was the book that broke the mold.
High praise from people who know the business. Shows the impact he had.
And like any legend, there are those little details, the nuances, maybe slight discrepancies that get repeated. It's interesting trying to sort fact from, well, Forsyth-style fiction.
Right, the RAF, Reuters, BBC, the MI6 role. Those are confirmed facts. The 35-day writing claim for Jackal, as we said, widely cited, but maybe debated by some pedants.
Sales figures around 75 million copies for 24 books seems a solid estimate. The financial loss, the divorce, those are public record.
The Jackal publication year, definitely 1971 in the UK, not 1970. An Odessa fictional group, but crucially inspired by real Nazi escape networks. That inspiration was key to its impact.
So, bringing it all together, why does Forsyth still matter? Why are we still talking about him?
I think because his books were more than just thrillers. Especially back in the 70s, the 80s, before 247 news cycles and the internet, they were like these incredibly detailed windows into hidden worlds.
Yeah.
Espionage, covert ops, global conflicts.
He made it feel immediate, accessible.
Exactly. The meticulous research, whether it was the ballistics or the politics or the tradecraft, it just immersed you completely. You felt like you were there. And even today, those themes of hidden agendas, geopolitical chess games, they still feel incredibly relevant.
They really do. And yes, we have to acknowledge the criticisms, the sometimes simplistic good versus evil, the occasional stereotypes that reflected his conservative viewpoint.
You have to. It's part of the full picture.
But his sheer skill, his ability to build suspense, to blend the factual research with compelling fiction, nobody did it quite like him. He really did pave the way for writers like Tom Clancy, maybe even Dan Brown, who followed that realistic research-heavy model.
He absolutely set a benchmark for the techno-thriller and the geopolitical thriller. His legacy is, well, it's complicated, but undeniably huge.
Frederick Forsyth's life was, in itself, as thrilling and complex as any story he wrote. Jet pilot, reporter, spy informant, world-famous author.
A man of action and words, truly.
His passing does feel like the end of an era, but the books, Jackal, Odessa, Dogs of War, all of them, they'll keep readers hooked for a long, long time.
So the big question remains, I suppose, was he primarily this great literary figure, a populist storyteller who ruffled feathers? Or maybe just a fascinating mix of both?
It's hard to pin down, isn't it? But one thing's certain, he made us look at the world a bit differently, made you maybe glance over your shoulder, wonder what's really going on behind the official story. So thinking about his life, his work, what surprised you the most, and what secrets, what hidden details might still be out there waiting.